Welcome back to another episode of the Leadership Void podcast. I'm your host, Enrique, and my co-host, Vince. We're once again excited about addressing the questions that we had previously asked leadership in a broad sense. Anyone that would answer those questions, and the remarks or the answers were very surprising. So I'll let you get a little before we get into this.
Absolutely. Another great episode indeed. And we're so fortunate that so many have taken the time to respond to the survey. And today we're actually going to talk about question 4, which is, what's a lesson learned you wish you would have known earlier in your career? And resounding 5 things came up, right? And they were having a mentor and a coach as one of the top ones. EQ, emotional intelligence skills, listening, the unknown, and lastly, speak up more. So those are definitely came through. And I'll jump in with the first one, if you don't mind. Is really the mentor coach, right? And I would agree, because I think that's a very valid opportunity. As we know, as a tribe, we grow with others, and to have the most efficient and effective workforce, you need to interact and grow from others. A coach and mentor early in your career gives you and identifies a roadmap of your weaknesses and strength. And currently, I have a coach and I have mentors, and great thing about that is enhancing my skills both professionally and personally. And mentors and coach will not only assist you towards your goals, increase your level of engagement, support for improvement and specific skills, also build your personal awareness in a safe space. And as a leader, if you have a coach or a mentor, and you offer the same opportunities to your team, it plays huge dividends, because it enhances the fact that you want to help yourself, self-improvement, plus increases loyalty within your team.
Absolutely. I love that we starting off with this, because it's one of the areas that, as leaders, as humans, as people, we don't take advantage of. We don't know it all. We can't expect to know it all. And usually our failures are, derived from blind spots, areas that we don't have the capacity to increase our vision in, and others see it. If we had them on our side as a coach or a mentor, we could possibly avoid those pitfalls, right? Those areas of void in our personal leadership, where we can address those things. And you have mentioned a safe place. Everybody likes a safe place. Everybody likes to be cocooned when it comes to development, but you have to seek those out in the ways of mentorship and coaching. Now, I know this is around our wheelhouse, but I would love for you, Ben, to take a quick moment and describe the difference there, because there is.
Oh, yeah. Well, to me, a mentor is an individual who's been in the shoes you want to walk in a sense that they are a subject matter expert in an arena of an industry that you want to pursue or pursuing or involved in. So they already know it, been there, done it, have the T-shirt. A coach, and for another thing, it's kind of like a consultant plus a friend. A mentor plays a lot of different facets. It involves somewhat coaching as well. But coaching is a specific skill set. As a consultant, we'll answer your questions with a subject matter expert. We'll give you some guidelines, create a framework. In a coach's arena or hat, I'm not going to answer your questions. I'm going to question your answers. I'm going to sit behind you, because I'm not playing the game as a coach. You're playing the game. You're creating the roadmap. You're just going to figure out what's best suited for you in the respect of which road to take. But you're creating your own road, and we're just back there valuing and evaluating you and how you perform, and really question how you're doing it, because you already have the skill sets. So again, we're not asking the questions, we're questioning your answers as a coach, and differentiation between a coach and a consultant slash mentor.
That's an outstanding descriptor, and I hope everybody was listening because there is a difference. Sometimes it's mixed, and hey, a mentor could be a coach, right? It can have both capacities to do both things. But when you're looking for a specific thing, be careful on what you're looking for because you might get the wrong thing. So, I love the question. The question is what you wish you would have known, right? Most of us, not only in leadership, but in life, most of us always, in one way or another, have said, man, I wish I knew this back then, right? Everybody loves the hindsight of the whole of a situation. And the mentors and the coaches are there to help you limit those expressions throughout your life. Man, I wish I knew. Man, I wish I knew. Well, there are people who already know. So be cognizant of the fact that although you know some things, we don't know everything. And there's some people out there willing to help us so that we can navigate those waters, whether they're glass or, turbulent 40-foot, 50-foot, 60-foot, whatever they may be. There are people already there ready and able and willing to help you throughout those episodes in your career. The next point that came out, which is near and dear, anybody that deals with people and loves people, if this next point is not at the top of your list, then I start to question how much you really love people, right? So what's the next one?
Yeah, indeed. We're dealing next one is emotional intelligence. And I would say to everyone out there, that's your secret weapon for success. And I went and I did some research, and interesting enough, emotional intelligence, which is literally EQ. So EQ is responsible for 58% of professional success. And regardless of your job category, 90% of top performers score high in emotional intelligence. Now, approximately 72 to 82 global companies now utilizes EQ tests for middle managers and executives and going into those positions. And then last, which was interesting, if you have two team members or two candidates with the same level of IQ and technical skills, what sets them apart are the EQ levels that they have, which they could be anywhere from building trust, having humility, empathy, using moral judgment, just to name a few. Again, secret weapon to success is EQ, because leadership is about influencing.
And that's on the nail, right? You hit that right on the head. And I don't know how many times I've been able, or I've been in a position where I've had to bring this up to leadership because EQ has been void. It is one of the areas that will sometimes make or break you as a leader. Let's just play a game here real quick. And I know I didn't prep you for this, but just for the sake of, right? If I say, hey, Vince, there's a festival in Ponce, let's go. You say, oh, okay, well, festival, I like music, I like that, okay. But if I say, Vince, there's a festival in Bayamon, two things happen, right? Two things happen. You're from the north side of the island, right? I'm from the south side of the island. If you say Ponce to me, I'm like, yes, I love music. And it's in my house, right? And if I bring that up, Rio Piedra, San Juan, all those areas around yours, it ignites something different in you. And it's just my basic knowledge of you, what drives you, what's near and dear to you, that allows me, if I had to, bring something up, to tie it to something that motivates you, that will, bring a smile to your face. And so, those things are important, and leaders don't key into that, the details of a person, the what motivates a person, what drives a person is just as important, if not more important, than the task you're about to give. Because if you give a task and you don't tie that person in some way, shape, or form to what they feel it's important, then they're just doing the task, right? You're going to get what you're going to get. Being emotionally intelligent as a leader takes you separating yourself from you and thinking about that person that you are just about to give a task to, give a job to. And so it is so important. And, you can't be EQ savvy unless you go to point number 3.
Yes, indeed. I love his transition, which is listening. But yeah, to your point, leaders, as I mentioned earlier, are there to influence, right, and to motivate. And you have to understand the team members you have, and by doing so is by listening, right? Because great leaders listen to understand. Period. That's it, right? So what they listen to, what's not being said, not just the words are being said, but what's not being said. The exercise that we spoke earlier throughout our journey in this Leadership Void podcast is exercises active and impactful listening. They're looking for nonverbal clues. They're creating that safe space, that active two-way communication, and listening without judgment is a work in progress, folks. It takes time to reflect and do so. So one quick thing to do is really take time yourself each day to reflect and jot down responses to the following questions, right? What percentage of speaking versus listening did you do or did in that day? Did I listen equally to everyone? And what prevented you from listening effectively? Just small things that we can do, because we're here to motivate. We're here to influence our troops and our employees or our team members.
And it's interesting, right? Because we're on question number 4 of practically an 8-question survey. And in question number 4, we are still talking about listening. And, if you haven't keyed in or gone through the previous episodes, we encourage you to go ahead and listen to those. But listening has been at the forefront of every one of our discussions. It's because what you said, Vince, right? Listening to understand is one of the areas in leadership that could be avoided. You could be listening just to get ready to say something, right? And that's not really listening. You're just waiting your turn. And when you listen, as you had mentioned, to understand, you start to remove yourself from the equation. And that is the key. The key is that the fact of the matter is that the people execute our desires, our visions, our missions. And if the people are not being listened to, and they're not being taken into account, or in the terms of empathy and EQ, as we are talking now, then what you're getting is just a job done. But it's not a job done where people come out of it with smiles and happy that they did it. They just did it because the next one's coming, and so they have to do it, right? So the and when leadership integrates listening into their style, it dynamically changes everything you do, and it makes you a more of a human, less of a robot, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And as I mentioned early on, that's a superpower right there. And if you have that, That's one real great key to your success. And allow me to drive into the next one is the unknown.
Mm.
Uh, which interesting, it's playing huge what's going on in today's world and the global pandemic, right? Because it is an unknown. But in leadership as well as in our personal life, here we are put ourselves in the test of the unknown. So I'll spend a little time on the 5 tips I thought will add value to this. So first, understand your fear. What exactly keeping you? Because as a human being, we have a behavior to assume that our thinking influences the way we think, we feel, and behave. So our fear levels factor goes up, and our thoughts come into the equation here, which is a natural behavior. But we have to understand that first and foremost, understanding the fear. Where is it coming from? Work with the information you have. If only information you have is all I can give you is what's going on this hour, would just predicate and inform that, and be okay with saying this is all I have right now. And as we know, this changes day in and day out, or hour by hour. So don't exaggerate, just work with the information you have. And third one is really change the lens you use for seeing the unknown and ride the wave of fear. Don't don't create the sense of I'm in control of this. Be human to your point and say, listen, I don't have all the answers. We're going to work through this together. And you might, as well as them, take a pause, do a quick meditation or mindfulness exercise, think a positive thought, because we have to tackle this as a team. But ride that wave of fear, seek a way to understand that unknown better and change that lens. um, Fourth one is allow the process of of what's going on to be messy, because it might be, and find peace with failure, because you're not going to always have success. There will be setbacks, but what did you learn from that? What lessons did you draw from that, of that negative point? And it might be a positive outcome. And lastly, seek ways to be familiar with your comfort level, because this is stretching you to the uncomfort zone. So you have to use multi-directional creative approaches here. Think of it in the sense that, be okay with being a beginner in this arena, because from here you can grow. And like with clients, this is the biggest anchor of the fear of the unknown, because they're ruminating about pushing about not pushing through. They stuck. They sometimes think what can go wrong if they make this decision, how the coach is going to receive their feedback. So they stay in their corner, and sometimes certain individuals, just dominate the airways and don't let them expand their own horizon. So take time to be comfortable with yourself in this arena. Great time to have a coach or mentor to help with your leadership capabilities in this opportunity here.
Yeah, as you're giving all these tips, which should just folks, this is a fountain of wisdom coming for us all, right? Because when we talk about these things and all these tips come flowing out, they're for our benefit. Just to put it very human, like the unknown is something we all face. There is not one person on this earth that has not faced the unknown in one way or another in their life. So, even from the mentor and coaching world where we both come from, there are still unknowns for us. So it's not something like we're past it. This is something we deal with every day. I'll give you an example. The other day, there was a conversation that I was privy to. I saw that it was accusatory, and in my head, I'm thinking, I got to defend this person because that's not how they are. And so I go to defending them. But guess what? These two people had generated this commentary together, and I did not know right? The unknown. And so I had to go back and apologize to one of them because I did not know that this was a planned, coordinated thing. And I just saw it when we were talking about lenses, right? I just saw it from one side of the story. But guess what? I'm not too shy. I remember my mom. You're not too grown to get whooped, boy. I'm not too grown to say, hey, I am sorry because, or I have to apologize because of this, then, and the other. You have to be humble enough to admit when you're wrong and face it front end. But the unknown was the determining factor there, right? It was what I did not know. When we get to deciding things, when we go to making a decision for ourselves, for our family, for our business, for others, it is the unknown that's going to get you. And so when you have coaches, mentors, people who have already been down that road, you talk to them ahead of time. You may be able to avoid these things, right? Yeah, I was ashamed. I'm over it now, but I was ashamed. But I hit it head on because one of the things that I don't want in my life is for the unknowns to cripple me. And although you mentioned that, hey, be okay with failure. It's going to happen. It's what you do with failure that actually is the end result of that event. And so, and so I went into this situation trying to speak up, which which makes it takes us to our next point, which is speaking up. What would we have known earlier if we wanted to know things? Speaking up. So what do you have to say about speaking up?
Yeah, well, I think it dives right in and dovetails a little bit into the unknown as well, because what am I going to say here, especially not knowing what the results will be. So sometimes we just shy and don't say anything. But we have, as a leader, have to be uncomfortable, and we have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And it's a lot in our head. A lot of it, as I mentioned earlier, with the unknown, same thing with speaking up in a coaching environment, is that our clients and leaders that our clients are their biggest obstacle. They are the ones feel like, you know what? I don't want to say the wrong thing. I'd rather stay in my corner, not sure how the responses will be received. Or there's someone in the organization that's always talking and dominating the airwaves, so can't get a word in, right? So as I mentioned earlier, look at it as more of a creative approach, multidimensional creative approach. So this is just an option here. Reframe your mindset about that. The majority of time, this right here, speaking up, has to do with your comfort level and belonging, because we can give you great tips about how to be a better speaker, join Toastmasters and so on. But I think at the point of your journey as a leader, you already have the skill set to speak. It's really understanding that you are in your own way sometimes and wanting not to give the wrong response. But guess what? Use it as an approach. This is just a different approach versus giving them a response in that sense. So don't let it ruminate too much in your head. Pull the trigger, go forward, push through, because just like the unknown, speaking up more, it takes time for you to practice that being uncomfortable and really getting out there. And again, a coach and a mentor are great for helping you with this skill set.
Absolutely. When I think about speaking up in terms of, actions to take as a leader, as a person, as a employee, or wherever it is in life that you are, you can't understand unless you ask questions, right? So I always encourage, ask questions. Speaking up doesn't mean be rude, right? That's not what it means. It means seek to understand, ask questions, speak up. Sometimes, like in my case that story I just told, I spoke up, but I spoke up in defense, and that's it's different, right? So and when it's in defense, you got to know both sides before you even say anything, right? So, but in the terms of you at work, there's something that if it was unclear, don't just leave there with unclear guidance. Speak up, ask for the clarity, ask to speak to somebody. Maybe the meeting is not the opportune time. Ask to speak after, but get clarity. Avoid the unknowns as we have been talking by speaking up. And when you get clarity, it allows everybody and everything to flow as planned, right? Because there was a vision, there's a mission, and the end is already in sight. When you're talking about people who said in casting out visions and missions, the end's already in sight. Is how do you navigate to that end? And when you don't speak up, you don't seek clarity, it could go wrong. That's usually when things go wrong, when people are not clear about what they want to do. But definitely 5 things that I wish I knew when I was younger, and learning and doing and executing leadership.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, totally agree with you. And I think what brings you to that opportunity to be better is having that coach or mentor, because they also great at reminding you what is your why. Why are you here? Why are you doing this? And it really resonates that passion you have, and it helps you push through. So those 5 tips, ladies and gentlemen, are there. I'm glad you brought them up as the first 5. And again, they were, and I'll regurgitate them real quick, is having a mentor or coach, emotional intelligence and skills, enhancing listening, how to navigate the unknown, and to speak up more. So those things we wish we'd have known as we started a career, but it's never too late to always sharpen that saw as you go through. But as we go through, we have to go through and work towards our next week, which we're very excited to have another guest speaker. So who's on point this time, Mr. Enrique?
All right. Well, we've been trying to bring you the best and the greatest in the state of Florida, so that you can be educated about the things that are around you. And Veterans Florida, if you have not heard of them before, you will hear of them next week, and we are so excited to have them with us on the show.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Veterans Florida, they assist military veterans transition to civilian life. All in the state of Florida. We're very happy to have their leadership on our next podcast, which will be May 27th. So please tune in That's next Wednesday, May 27th. And as we mentioned earlier, if you have any topics or you would like to be on our podcast, please reach out. Our email is theleadershipvoid@gmail.com. We'll be happy to have and entertain your questions, your topics, or even have you on our guests. We're looking forward to hearing from you and hope you enjoyed today. And you will have a great treat next week with the leadership of Veterans Florida.
Yeah, let me remind everybody that, hey, if you are listening and you are, a business or you have a brand, and if you want us to highlight that, hey, we'll proudly wear your shirt. Yeah, we'll probably drink from your mug and show it around. But if you are looking for sponsoring someone and you find that our content resonates with your mission, your vision, please email us at theleadershipvoid@gmail.com, and we'll get together and we'll gladly have you as part of the sponsorship for the show.
Absolutely. And we look forward to seeing you next week. Have a great day.
All right, everybody.